Philip Pip was a small boy. He was 7 years old. His name was difficult to say, so it became Pip. He was an orphan. His parents were dead, and so were 5 of his brothers and sisters when he was very young. He lived with his sister and her husband, Joe Gargery, who was Pip's friend. Joe was a blacksmith and Mrs. Joe was 20 years older than Pip. On cold afternoon in winter, Pip sat alone in the marshes crying. He went to the graveyard and sat by his parents' grave. A man with leg irons appeared from behind a grave. He asked Pip where he lived and with whom. He was thin and dirty. When he knew that Joe was a blacksmith, he asked him to get him the blacksmith's file and some food to let him live. Mrs. Joe asked him where he was. While he was helping prepare lunch, he heard that 2 convicts escaped from the prison ships, where people who committed crimes were put. There was a warning for people. Pip realized that the man was one of them and asked the file to take off the leg irons and escape from the marshes. The next day was the Christmas day. Pip took some food and Joe's file and ran to the graveyard. There was another man with leg irons but disappeared in the mist. Pip found his man and gave him the food and the file, who stared to remove his leg irons. Pip felt guilty of what he had done. He wanted to tell Joe, but he feared that Joe mightn't want to be his friend again. He said nothing. The guests arrived home. Mrs. Joe discovered that the meat pie disappeared. The guests forgot about the meat pie when some soldiers entered asking Joe to mend some handcuffs. They were looking for 2 convicts who broke the handcuffs and escaped. After mending the handcuffs, the soldiers went the marshes. Joe and Pip hoped they couldn't find the convicts. Suddenly they heard angry shouts.